We can all agree that depression is not real. It's a temporary state of mind. So one of the ways to get rid of depression is to forgo the identity of a depressed person. Because majority of people bask in this idea, or majority of people confess, I want to get rid of depression, but their actions is misaligned with their pronouncements because of the following reasons. Depression is a cure-all excuse. It shields you from the insults your failure of a life would have attracted otherwise. So for instance, I'm fat, I'm a loser, I don't have any girlfriend, nobody loves me. Instead of society to address me as a failure, no, I'm depressed. Remember, I'm depressed. So depression in and of itself has become a shield to insulate you from the ills of society as a consequence of your monumental laziness. You must first be willing to forgo the identity of a depressed person. You must first be willing to take responsibility for your life. Dismiss this idea depression is some disease you caught from the sky and it's impossible for you to cure yourself without taking pills. I refuse to believe as a full functioning adult that I cannot take responsibility over my life. I refuse to believe that some pill would save me from myself. I want you to understand this concept. The government, big farm, every single person is out for themselves. I truly believe there are cure for hazardous diseases like cancer, HIV and AIDS, but those diseases or those cure would never be released into the public because it is more business prudent to undergo progressional treatments like chemotherapy, the first session, second session, third session, than to release the cure. And some intelligent people in the audience would go, well, if that was the case, why don't you release the cure? Why don't you release the drug? Price it high. Make it twice the amount you would receive from a full chemotherapy session. It's a very good suggestion. However, release the cure and run the risk of being seen as elitist, or in fact anybody who goes through that route and release the cure, price is very high. His comment section will be flooded with death threats, insults. In fact, his life is no longer safe. He would attend various press conferences of how he's an evil human being. You released the cure of a hazardous disease and you made it unavailable to the public. It's only a matter of time before some genius buys your expensive drug, duplicates it, release it to the mass underpriced. So that's out of the picture. But the point I'm trying to highlight is that the government would forever keep you in the loop of getting treatment. The government would forever lie to you that these pills that they don't give for free is somehow going to cure you. Depression is a state of mind. Depression is an effect, it's not a cause. So something caused your depression. Listen very carefully because I'm about to share a very unique perspective on this subject. It's never been said in this fashion. I've listened to a lot of teachings and majority of them don't understand this topic as intimately as I do. Some of them just listen to things online, distill it with personal anecdotes, shove it to the public As a consequence of their influence, people are more susceptible to the solution. But once you understand this fundamentally, that depression is an effect, unfortunately, it's a very tricky effect in the sense that there is no one cause. There are various causes of depression. And once you don't understand this, it's most likely you prescribe a solution because of the love that fan in the audience have. He applies the solution to wrong cause, compounding his misery. It's very difficult for you to spur a depressed person into action. Even worse, it will crush him once he fails. That's what majority don't take into consideration. All they care about is making a quick buck, is making the next money, the next finances at the expense of someone's mental health. But not to worry, I bring you glad tidings. Depression is a cause, not an effect. There are various causes of depression. One is identity crisis. So you don't know who you are. You have no idea why you exist. You get up in the morning, you go to school, come to your 9 to 5, finish it up with Netflix. At the end, about to go to bed, struggle, battling whether to engage in this addiction or not. Finally, you give in. You get pissed off with yourself. Take that negative energy to bed. Wake up and repeat the same monotonous action. If it's you I just described, it's identity crisis. That activity leads to depression. You might try as much as possible to distract yourself with mundane objects or parties, become hedonistic. But hedonism in and of itself has its limits. Anybody who has experienced pure hedonism ultimately comes to the fact where they realize this is bullshit, this is a waste of time, and they convert to religion, become sane. Take Dan Brazilian, for instance. At the height of his hedonism, women, drugs, all of that, the pleasure factor wears out very quickly. That's why majority take it to the extreme. Pedophilia, doing all kinds of freaky things. But even that activity, it's only a matter of time before it degrades to pure insanity. For instance, sniffing coke off a woman's genitalia. The hedonism factor becomes darker and darker. As a consequence, if you observe it from an external standpoint, it's just disgusting. So hedonism isn't the solution to your identity crisis. The solution is purpose. Purpose, why you exist. As usual, purpose is a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting subject. Majority, there are very few people on the internet who understand this subject as well as can prescribe the solution on how to get purpose. Purpose, most people on the internet do not understand this subject well. All they do is to memorize some concepts, some quotes, some anecdotes, distill it with personal life experiences, shove it to the public. I can count on one hand the number of people who understand this subject intimately, I being one of them. Recently, I did a full playlist, a full breakdown on purpose, beginner's guide on how to achieve purpose. I believe that was the title. So go check it out. It's free. I'm not charging you a penny. The only price you have to pay is hunger, determination, desire to change, I'm tired of this situation. It is time for my destiny to rise. This life of getting up, going to bed, wondering, anxiety, there is no taste in my life. So if that's something you would find very helpful, go check it out. Back to the initial discourse. There are various causes of causes of depression. As I astutely pointed out, one being identity crisis. You have no idea who you are. Second, loss of a loved one. This is self-explanatory. You lose someone, it can lead to depression, especially if it's like the breadwinner. You're not ready to take up the responsibility, coupled with the fact you're never going to see this loved one. You can implode within. So it's understandable. And this kind of depression is very tricky in the sense that there's no law, there's no principle you can apply to bring this person back, to resurrect this individual. The only solution is first, try and get yourself together. Understand depression isn't going to solve the problem. And it's easier said than done. It's easy for me to sit here and try and tell you it's going to be fine, but faced with this situation, the pain is unbearable. One of the things you can begin to do to prepare yourself for these dark seasons, because it will come, it is inevitable, is to try and start building your finances. My friend, everything are in seasons. To everything under the earth, there is a season and a timing to every purpose. A time to sleep, a time to awake, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to sow, a time to reap. What is the consistent factor? Time. There is time for everything. And according to the law of time and chance, a point would come in your life where these dark seasons would arrive. The best thing you can do is to start preparing yourself for those seasons. My friend, if you are confronted with a situation where suddenly the financial burden falls on you and you're not prepared for this kind of seasons, you would not only live in regret, you might become suicidal and act on that belief. So start preparing yourself for these dark seasons, because it would come. It is inevitable. It would come. And when seasons of opportunity come, invest your money. Disregard this show on social media and seeing people compare. In fact, the Bible says, they who compare themselves against themselves are not wise. Are not wise. Any single person who subscribes to NSC is a very intelligent individual. So I refuse to believe that someone under my covering should be classified as unwise. So do not compare yourself to others. Do not do things because other people are doing them. My friend, when I hit my first million, I dumped 90% into assets, digital assets, physical assets, various investments, business. In fact, I am as vague as possible. It's deliberate. I've made a promise never to tell people what to invest in. The only thing I can give you are the various investment vehicles. The precise asset should be up to you. That's not something I want to get in. But investment should be your priority. Like I said, seasons change. It would be foolish to believe, to assume that it's always going to be like this. No. There are times where your source of income will dry up. had you utilized that opportunity well, it would have spurred various sources of income which will begin the next phase of your life. And sometimes in business, you cannot maximize an opportunity, or you've so maximized the opportunity, it begins to produce diminishing marginal returns. Is what economics, or based on economics, the more money you put in, the less output it produces. Say for instance, you hand a man 1 bottle of water, quenches his thirst, 2 bottles of water, 3, 4. It will get to a point where he can no longer consume a bottle of water. So the more bottled water handed produce less satisfaction. It's the same thing with your business. Take Facebook for instance. The more had Zuckerberg be Facebook centric, chances are excellent he would be far down the ladder on the Forbes list. Yet he understood primarily that Facebook was just an entry point to do something better. Acquired Instagram, Snap, and a ton of social media platforms and various businesses unheard of. He produced better. It's the same thing with you. I don't know why I'm going the route of business, but one business is an opportunity to spur various diversification. Does that make sense? This is not a business discourse. We are talking of depression, for crying out loud. So loss of someone, the best thing you can do is to start prepping yourself for these seasons. The third is stagnation. As easy as it sounds, this is a very sensitive subject. Stagnation ultimately leads to depression. I recall at the infancy of this channel, seeing little to no progress. It is very demoralizing. It can crush you when you put your heart and soul into a venture. You're consistent, you're giving it your all, yet yields little to no results. It's demoralizing. That stagnation, everything comes down to perception, which is a whole podcast in and of itself. So let's not get into it, because anytime I give a point, I see like 1,000 ways to defeat that point, which has made it difficult for my audience to resonate with my speech, because you are not developed to see those 1,000 nuances. So that's not something you should be focused on. Be focused on this low level information. I consciously dampen the information in order for you to resonate. And this is something I struggled with, especially at the infancy of my career. It betrayed my standard until I saw somewhere in scripture that you give children milk and adults strong meat. So right now, what I'm giving you is milk, as intelligent and as reasonable it sounds. This is not the best. There are higher dimensions of this knowledge. So I believe as we keep going on this journey, there are tons of things I would love to share. So that's the third one. No, we are not done. What's the third one? Stagnation. So stagnation, a very sensitive subject, demoralizing. You're trying your best, especially when you default on the first law. I told you not to compare yourself. So once you compare yourself, it might come across as stagnation. Again, you can introduce perception into this equation. Perception, let's not go there. But stagnation, once you see someone who has a semblance of progress, especially in the financial domain, you look at your own effort. It's even worse when the person comes across as less intelligent, less beautiful, lesser than the version you currently have. Sometimes the reality might be you're on various assignments. That's why you need to be a man of purpose. As a man of purpose, there are things like it isolates you from the noise of society. You are so busy, you don't have time to compare yourself to another person. When I see someone doing well, genuinely, I'm happy for you, but I don't compare myself to you. I'm building a skyscraper. You just built a duplex and you've done your housewarming, you've roofed the apartment. I'm happy for you. But while the guy who's building a duplex is done with completion, you are still digging. It would be foolish to try and compare the timing of that project to its counterparts. It would be unwise and ridiculous. In fact, the money you spent on casting can build the duplex even better edifice. Understand you're on a different assignment. Stay on your own lane. Focus on building. Focus on effort. And you'll be glad you did. Number 4. This is not a compilation of every single thing that can cause depression. There are tons of causes of depression. I just decided to highlight a few. So it's not as though any single thing that was not mentioned in this video is not sufficient to cause depression. It is. In fact, depressed people, or if you're susceptible to depression, even the slightest of things can harm you. You're walking on the road, stick your foot on stone, swollen as hell. That event is enough to cause depression. You go back home, you cry yourself to sleep. Why me? Everything is against me, things like that. So tons of things can cause depression. I'm just giving you the majors are most likely to cause depression. Do not believe the government. Do not believe doctors and medicine who have diagnosed you as depressed. All they are doing is an attempt to enrich themselves. I want you to truly believe you can affect your life positively. And all of these problems or all of these causes highlighted, inverted, you can get the solution. I noticed I didn't prescribe solution across all the boards, aside the loss of someone, which I gave you solution. So identity crisis, the best way, I did prescribe solution. In identity crisis, I said the best way to overcome that situation is to become a man of purpose. Stagnation, not to compare yourself with people. You're on a different journey in and of itself. So do not believe that the government would save you by popping pills. No, it's a waste of money. In fact, all of my intelligence came from the fact that I was broke. I had to find ways, efficient ways to solve my problems that were high quality and involved little to no spending, because I ain't got it. You say, you're very intelligent and you don't smoke, you don't drink alcohol, you have little to no vices. I was very poor. I didn't have the ability to afford those vices. As a consequence, I didn't indulge in them. Plus, along the line, I saw the stupidity in those vices. So, I'm good. What else? Do not pop pills. Why rich people commit suicide? They've eliminated hope. Eliminated hope. Hope is the only thing that keeps you and I going. The idea that one day we will get rich, one day you'll be promoted to a point worthy of admiration, one day you're going to get that girl, one day you're going to do this, is the hope factor that keeps us going. Post with a situation, that hope is eliminated. Suicide becomes the solution. So once they put you in a loop of sitting in a chair, sharing your problems, opening old wounds, telling you it's not your fault, you can never fix this situation. Oh yeah, I can, by ending it. So once you put in an individual in an endless loop of therapy, that you're always going to be talking about it, and I wouldn't want to live like that. I would be suicidal if that was my existence. Again, majority of people get this depression as a feeling of importance. So majority of people are depressed. Somehow depression makes you important. As counterintuitive as this sounds, if you are a depressed person whom your illness is known, especially in a classroom, it's kind of a status symbol. Oh, I'm the kid with ADHD. Excuse me, sir, he has ADHD. You can't ask him that. So it creates some kind of popularity, it creates a name. And as Dr. Dewey, a profound American philosopher, said, the deepest craving of humans is a feeling of importance. Notice his choice of words. Craving, deepest craving. Even George Washington wanted to be addressed as his mightiness. Queen Elizabeth I would not open a letter that wasn't addressed as Her Imperial Majesty. So there are countless of examples I can draw from history validating this statement. You're not the first. So depression, forgo the feeling of importance. It is stupid to be known for a bad thing or for a negative outcome. There are better ways to become known. And most people understand this concept. However, they are never going to take advantage of it. You know why? It is difficult. It is difficult to get famous for doing something that is acceptable. Say sports, for instance. Sports, it takes a lot of dedication, sacrifice, and effort to get to an echelon where you stand out from the 22 individuals or more on the pitch. Put effort, refuse to give in, and you'll be fine. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.